Well, hello there, my admirable avian allies, and welcome to What's the Quack. I'm your host, Ducky, and it's been a while. It's been about 2 months since I've actually sat down and recorded absolutely anything, YouTube or even podcast related. Got a little bit of rust on me, so if I sound a little bit different, it's just because I haven't recorded in a while, and I'm just trying to get back into the swing of things. As to why I've been away for as long as I have, over Christmas I decided to take a month off, decided to unplug from all things YouTube or internet related, just because I needed a bit of a break. I was just feeling a bit kind of mentally exhausted. Not so much burnt out, but just mentally exhausted from just thinking about YouTube and constantly, worrying about what my next video is going to be, what I'm going to be talking about on podcast, what games to play for the second channel, stuff like that. So I just decided I needed a month off. And in maybe 4 years on YouTube, I think now, I thought, fuck it, I deserve a month off. I'm going to take a month off. People will understand. There is certain worries certain YouTubers have when you take some time off. You think people are going to be like tormenting you, kind of going, oh, when's the next video out? Where are you gone and all that? But realistically, when your favorite YouTuber or the YouTuber you follow or enjoy content from doesn't upload in a while, you tend to just kind of forget they exist until they upload another video. So, you're actually grand to take a bit of a break from time to time. But that aside, some of you may be wondering, if you don't keep up with my socials, like my Instagram or my Twitter, go follow me on there, by the way, because it's a good place to kind of keep up with updates, because I post stuff to my Instagram, my Twitter, and the YouTube community posts if there's any major changes or anything coming on the channel you want to keep up with. That and my Patreon as well. If you want to become a Patreon supporter, I also have a Patreon. I'll link that below as well. Oh, and I actually have new merch coming as well. Yeah, keep an eye out for that as well. I'll be posting that to my socials and stuff. Typically, I'll announce that on my socials before I mention it in a video, because videos take time to make, and I'll tend to announce my socials as soon as new merch and whatnot comes out. But I've got a really cool design from Rokata, sent it to me recently. It's kind of a take on the meme Me and the Boys, but it's me and the boys like PJ Connor and Hef on a shirt. I'll post that design in the coming weeks. Keep an eye out for that. So anyway, yeah, I took a month off, and it was a nice, calm, relaxing month. I definitely felt a lot more refreshed, a lot more kind of willing to engage stuff towards the end of it. But unfortunately, one of my dogs became quite sick. Not sick as in disease sick. Well, I suppose in a way, yeah. So one of my dogs, Snoop, who's a Staffordshire Bull Terrier, she developed a bit of a limp on her back leg, and it progressively got worse over about a week. It was initially suspected that it might have been a dislocated hip. Given her age, she did fall over quite a lot, and she wasn't fantastic on her feet, so it was suspected that she dislocated her hip. So we went in and we got it checked. She got an x-ray, stuff like that, and it turns out she had there was something showing up on the x-ray that looked suspicious. They suspected it might be inflammation, so she might have hurt herself and stuff like that. So they basically said, fingers crossed, give her some anti-inflammatories and some painkillers, see how she goes over the following week. But over the following week, she just did not get any bit better at all. Brought her in at the end of the following week, and she was diagnosed with having bone cancer. They did a proper scan, and there was a tumour found on her hip, around her pelvis. So, given her age, she was 15. She was well past her kind of a life expectancy. Life expectancy for a dog of her breed is about 13 on average. She was already 2 years past that. She's an absolute fucking trooper of a dog. She was as sturdy as I've ever seen any dog at all. She was diagnosed with arthritis when she was about 7. At about 8 or 9, she was diagnosed with an underactive thyroid. When she was 12, she was diagnosed with skin cancer. She had these black lumps that were appearing on her belly. But thankfully it wasn't super aggressive, and the vets pretty much said she's going to be dead from old age before this kind of skin cancer will be a problem. So she got away with that. And then when she was 13, one night she was massively bloated. Her body was just bulging out. And the missus called one of the after-hour vets, and we had her looked at, and it turned out she had a tumour on her spleen, a cancerous tumour on her spleen. And we got her in for surgery. I think it was the next day or the day after, very quick surgery, and which is just as well, because as soon as they got her on the operating table and cut out, because they just removed the spleen, because they can survive without a spleen, but basically they cut out the spleen. Thankfully there was no other cancer anywhere else inside, and it hadn't spread. It was just confined solely to the spleen. But when they took out the spleen ruptured as they were taking it out, and if that had ruptured inside her, it would have killed her. And then it was about 3 months ago she was diagnosed with chronic pancreatitis. So yeah, the dog's been through the runner, but she was an absolute unit. But yeah, unfortunately, the bone cancer was terminal. She wasn't great on the rest of her legs, so walking around on 3 legs really wasn't ideal, and she was in a lot of pain. So yeah, unfortunately I had to put her to sleep, sorry. But yeah, no, that fucking killed me, because as a lot of you know, I'm a big animal person, and I've had Snoop for 15 years, so it's it absolutely killed me. I was way too depressed to even look at doing anything with the channel or anything like that. So my 1 month off turned into 2 months off, and it went from a nice relaxing month off where I kind of rest and recuperated to the second month just been absolute fucking misery, because essentially once she got diagnosed with the bone cancer, we basically gave her a week to say her goodbyes and stuff like that. And she was on a lot of painkillers for that week. She wasn't suffering too much, but it wasn't going to be a long-term solution, and I wouldn't be a fan of letting any animal suffer. She's there was no bouncing back from that, especially when you had to kind of carry her in and out to the toilet and stuff. It was it wasn't in existence. It wasn't the way I like to actually see her. It just wouldn't have been fair. So yeah, we had to put her to sleep, and yeah, that was really difficult. I won't lie. I can talk about it a bit now, but my God, I was very upset that week, and I was there when they were putting her to sleep. I'm one of these people where I have to be there if my animal gets put to sleep. I need to give them company. I need to be, I need to give them that much. If they give me X amount of years of happiness, in Snoop's case 15, then it's the least I can do is see them out at the very end. So yeah. So that was really difficult. I don't know if any of you guys have ever had to put an animal to sleep. It's very hard. You're there watching them die, and that's not a good thing. I did a post about it on Instagram, and I mentioned it on my YouTube, and a lot of people have reached out with kind words and their condolences and stuff. So I want to thank you guys for that. It means a lot to me. It is a difficult time, a difficult thing for any kind of animal lover to go through. So I do appreciate all you guys have been reaching out and being so kind and being so genuine and understanding with the whole situation. So I do appreciate that. There was some confusion as well, actually, because I noticed a lot of people in the comments calling Snoop he, talking about her, she's a male dog. I absolutely understand that, and it's because I didn't name her. When we got Snoop 15 years ago. She was a rescue. It was somebody who was somebody who was breeding staffies, but very fucking poor conditions. So when we got her, we got her as a rescue. She had mange, she had no hair, she had blisters all over her skin. She was in a bad way. She was very shook. It took a lot of trips to the vet and stuff to bring her back around. She did obviously come back around. It lasted 15 years, which was amazing for our family, because we've had a few dogs in the past and none of them ever lasted. I think the longest we ever had a dog before that was about 2 or 3 years, because something would always happen. We had a dog that just died. I think it was of parvo. I was quite young at the time, so I'm not 100% sure what the dog died of, but that was only after a couple of years. We had a dog that was hit by a car and killed. Maybe it was about a year or two after owning it. We had a dog that ran away, and yeah, we were just really unlucky with dogs. And it's just funny that when we got Snoop, she was in the worst condition of any dog we've ever had off the bat initially, yet she outlived all of them, which I find quite funny. She had the worst start but the best finish. And but as far as why she's named Snoop is with her bad record of having dogs and all that, my younger brother was tormenting my mother years ago about wanting a staffy, because they were all the rage, all the umfelas between 12 and 15 or whatever, that kind of age range, were all mad for staffies. This was around the time where DMX and Tupac and all these kind of mad rappers were fucking this shit, and all the umfelas were listening to them. All these white wannabe gangster kids were all mad into that, and all the rage was a staffy. You were a cool little gangster if you had a staffy. So my little brother was tormenting my mother to get one for ages, and because he's the youngest boy, he got his way, and she gave in and got him a staffy who was the rescue was Snoop. And he wanted to call the dog Snoop after Snoop Dogg, because that's what you do, the rapper. And he didn't seem to give a damn that the dog was a female, and that didn't make any sense whatsoever, but he did it anyway, called her Snoop. And that's why Snoop has such an odd name. Yeah, as for why she became my dog, it was myself and my older brother. We were very adamant against not having dogs in our family because of the terrible luck we had over the years with dogs, and we knew full well that once he got the dog, it would be great for a couple of months, and then he'd completely lose interest, and the dog would be just left fucking bored out the back garden or something. But the mother allowed him to get the dog for a finish, and he did, and sure enough, after a couple of months he completely lost fucking interest. And my mother wasn't massive on dogs, so it was an outside outside dog was left out the back garden, kind of slept in the shed, stuff like that. That's pretty much where the dog was left for a few years. But over those few years, I was always out the back. I used to always play with Snoop and, entertain her and stuff, because again, I've since a very young age, I've always loved animals. As for how she became my dog was actually quite funny. So because I'd always play with Snoop, eventually she started to see me as her owner, or at least kind of she gravitated towards me. And one day I think it was in the kitchen of the mother's house at the time, and me and my younger brother got into a bit of a scrap, bit of a, fisticuffs. We went to blows in the kitchen. Snoop was in and around the kitchen at this stage, and what happened was Snoop had got between us as we were fighting and growled at my younger brother, despite the fact that she was technically his dog. But she got between us and growled at him as if to tell him, get the fuck back from Ducky. I think at that moment, he and I both realised that I am now the new owner of Snoop, because she was taking my side in the argument. So yeah, pretty much that's how I became the owner of Snoop. And once I moved out of my mother's house and got my own house that had the ability to house a dog, because I was in apartments and stuff like that in the past. But once I got a house where I've have room to leave the dog out to the toilet and could have my own say, I took Snoop with me. And yeah, that's how she became my dog, and she's been with me in this house for the last 6-7 years. But me and Snoop were always buddies. Like, I remember when I was going to school, I think it was like 5th, 6th year, stuff like that, the mother used to open the back door, leave Snoop in the morning to wake us up for school, and she used to barrel up the stairs like a fucking staffy does, bounce up onto the bed, and she'd be just licking your face all over you, going mental, crazy, just unbelievably excited to be in the house, because the mother used to never let her in. And two, she was just fucking so full of energy. That dog when she was young was ridiculous. If any of you guys ever owned a staffy or kind of a bull breed dog, you'd understand. It was funny because after a while, she kept doing this so often, after a while Snoop used to just barrel up the stairs, jump up onto my bed, and then just pass out next to me rather than trying to wake me for school. She did once try to kill herself inadvertently. She was left in. It was one time the mother was gone away, so sure enough, I was leaving her in the house, sneak her in there, leave her become a house dog there for the day while the mother can't give out about her. And she kind of went missing around the house somewhere at one stage, and I was like, where the fuck is she gone? I went wandering for her, and I could hear her whimpering upstairs. So I went upstairs and walked into the bedroom, and I could hear her whimpering under the bed. I was like, what the fuck? I looked under the bed, and on the base of this bed was like wooden slats, and they were all tied together by these kind of fabric strip that was stapled to each lat, kind of going along the bottom. And she had somehow stuck her head between the fabric and twisted it around and essentially hung herself. And she was she's nearly dead inside the fucking thing. I know I'm laughing about this now because, she obviously didn't die, but yeah, she had spun around and tightened this like makeshift noose around her neck. It was fucking ridiculous. So yeah, that's a bit of backstory about my doggo Snoop. She's gone now, unfortunately, and I'm left with Max, my pit bull. Max I actually only got because of Snoop. When I moved out of my mother's house when I went to do college, I knew nobody would be playing with Snoop, because, I was the only one that ever would kind of go out and entertain her and stuff out the back. I was the only one that would ever kind of play with her or interact and, give her any time of day. So when I moved to Cork, before I moved to Cork, I wanted to get her some company. So I went off and I got Max, and Max became Snoop's best friend. Basically, I wanted to give Snoop some company when nobody else was around, so she'd have something to do, 2 dogs is better than 1. So yeah, Max became her best friend, and the 2 of them were thick as thieves. Snoop, to be honest, didn't put in or out with him. She was kind of more confused. She was a really good dog. She was fantastic with people, the happiest dog you'd ever meet. Always licking everything. Oh, she licked everything. She was such I don't know, people say that's how dogs show affection. If that's the case, she was a very affectionate dog, but she's licking everything. But once I got Max as a pup, and Max was a very kind of timid and terrified pup, but once he seen Snoop, he absolutely stuck to her. Like, she became his mammy, essentially. Yeah, I've countless photos of them cuddled up in the bed. They got on quite well. They very rarely, fought or anything like that, thankfully, so it was great. But yeah, that's how I ended up with Max. It was a bit of company for Snoop while I was in college, because I knew nobody would play with her. Then when I came back, I obviously got the house and, took him with me. But now I'm stuck with Max. I say stuck with, he's not a bad dog. If anything, he's quite come out of his box a little bit in the last week. It's been 8 days since Snoop has been put to sleep from when I'm recording this. Yeah, he's really come out of his box. Such a cuddly dog. Always wants cuddles. It's ridiculous. Like, I lie down on the bed and he's straight up lying on top of me. I don't know. I think he's so used to lying on top of Snoop. He just needs a new companion. So I've got a new setup for him now. I've got a kind of nice fluffy bed for him here up in my office. Because in the past I couldn't leave the dogs up because, with Snoop's arthritis and how unsteady she was on her feet, and she was obviously a little bit heavy as well. I couldn't have her going up and down the stairs because she was such a big idiot. She didn't realise how fragile she was, and she'd fall down the stairs and hurt herself even worse. So I just kind of barred the 2 dogs from coming upstairs entirely. Now that she's gone, Max is pretty much becoming a whole house dog. He's allowed, he's allowed wander. He's the runner of the house. But I have him up in my office here now, and he doesn't leave my side. He just follows me everywhere. It's like my shadow. It's ridiculous. Not right, Max? No, he's passed out. He's passed out there at the moment. He sleeps a lot. I didn't realise how often Dog sleeps since I've like spent all day, every day with one for a solid week, and it's just non-stop sleeping. I try to play with him, but he's just, a lot of the time he's not bothered. He'd just rather sleep or cuddle or something, or chew his bone. But yeah, he's my new buddy. So if you're following me on Instagram, prepare for a load of Max pictures, because they're coming. I've gotten countless ridiculously cute photos of him. But on a lighter note, we're going to transition into, on my last podcast when I was doing with Connie, I mentioned how I want to insert a joke into every podcast that I think of. I'll probably miss a few in the future, but I want to insert a joke into every podcast, because I feel like the art of telling a joke is a dying art, and especially with everybody been locked away, you don't get to interact as much with people. You kind of lose the fun of sharing a couple of pints with the boys and sharing some jokes around the table and having a bit of a laugh. So I want to insert that back into life and sharing a joke that I've not written but I've heard over the years, something that's made me giggle. So I'm not taking credit for these jokes. These are just, jokes I've heard that are very funny. So this is it's joke time. I'm just going to call it joke time. I don't know. Can somebody come up with a better name for a little joke section in a podcast? I'll let you comment below. Yeah, so my joke of the day is this. For sale, one parachute. Only ever used once, never opened, some stains. Oh yeah. I've recently bought a keyboard, actually, not like a computer keyboard, like a piano keyboard. Got in like an Amazon Black Friday sale or whatever, because I've always wanted to learn the piano. I don't know if anybody out there, I enjoy learning instruments, and a piano is something I've always wanted to be able to play. Learning how to play a piano, that kind of knowledge kind of transitions or is applicable elsewhere, like, how I make my own music and stuff for my outros and, little bits here and there for videos on my channel. So I'm not completely musically retarded. I know how to play the guitar a little bit. I know a few songs on the guitar, and piano is something that's always interested me just as much as guitar. So yeah, I bought one of them. I'm slowly learning how to play the piano. If anybody has actually got any good recommendations for like videos or kind of tutorials I can check out, by all means, comment them down below. I'll check them out if you're listening on YouTube, that is. What else? Yeah, I'm nearly finished my next video. It's the Ireland video. It'll probably go out this week. I'm recording this on Monday the 1st of February, and I'm hoping to have the Irish video out this week. Now that I'm trying to get back into the swing of things, I have a big list of to-dos, and I'm starting off with the podcast because I can record that and then work away on videos from my main channel, and when I get kind of put in enough hours and I want to do something else, I can edit down the podcast real quick. And, editing a podcast, especially a solo one, is quite easy. It's not very time consuming, and, it's good to get content out to you guys. But one thing I actually discovered while I was writing the Irish video, this is going to get a bit Ireland heavy now for my international listeners, but one thing I discovered when I was writing that, because like any video, I do a little bit of research and things, kind of look into kind of different things, especially with the Irish videos, look into different Irish topics and stereotypes, stuff like that, stuff where I can it might spark ideas in my head to kind of make jokes and stuff about. But one thing I discovered is, or a little factoid I discovered that I found quite interesting, is when you have like friends and stuff that refer to crisps for Americans and international audience, chips as you call them, but we call them crisps over here. But they refer to crisps as potatoes. It happens with different things, stuff like a biro. People call things biros. In reality, it's a pen, but it's like the name of the company becomes the actual name of the product. Like Velcro is another one, which is for the product, it's actually called hook and loop tape or strips, sellotape instead of sticky tape, stuff like that. But when people refer to crisps as potatoes, even though they're not the brand potatoes, technically I discovered they're still correct, because the crisp, or the potato chip, was actually rather hilariously invented by an Irishman. Believe it or not, yeah, a fucking potato product was invented by an Irishman. Really helping out the fucking stereotype there. But it was invented by a man called Joseph Murphy. He invented the crisp from the potato, and the very first crisp he invented was tato, and it was cheese and onion tato. So the very first chip or crisp that was ever invented was cheese and onion tatoes. So when somebody refers to crisps as tatoes, you can't be that angry at them, because they're literally referring to the very first tato, or they're literally referring to the very first chip. I just fucking did it. They're literally referring to the very first crisps ever invented. So yeah, that's a fun little fact I learned as I was doing my research for the Irish video. Also, there was other thing I was looking at was the kind of food restrictions in the EU compared to the US. There's actually so many. I kind of went down a rabbit hole once I discovered this now, so bear with me. But there was so many food restrictions that the EU has that America doesn't. And one that kind of blew my fucking mind was the EU has a ban on farmed salmon from the US, because farmed salmon, for some reason, the meat of farmed salmon, the salmon itself, the meat inside from farmed salmon is grey. For some reason, it's not pink, and America dyes their farmed salmon to make it look pink, and the EU has regulations on dyed meat, so therefore America can't export salmon, or a lot of their meat products actually, to the EU because of these regulations, because of dyes. I think certain dyes have shown signs of being carcinogenic or, you know, really bad for you and stuff like that. And America's, I think it's the FDA or Food Association. The American one is not nearly as strict when it comes to a lot of that stuff, which, you know, I don't want to shit on America. You know, each country and each continent and stuff has their own little rules, but I kind of find that a little bit reassuring that in the EU, they're a lot more strict with what they allow fly. As a European, I like that, you know, we're being that little bit more cautious. I think probably a lot of Americans out there would probably appreciate that as well, if their own regulations were a bit strict with certain things. Because I know when the missus was in Florida for a while, a couple of years ago, I went to Disneyland and all that kind of shite. But one thing she was blown away by when she was over there was hold on. All right, I'm back. Sorry, I just had to step out there for a bit. It's just typical. I sit down and, you know, do the first recording, finally getting back to work, and my brother calls just to fucking annoy me. But yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, so when the missus was in Florida in America, the one thing that blew her away was the expiry date on milk. Because it was about a month ahead. Like when you buy a drum of milk over there, it doesn't expire for about a month, which is completely unheard of over here. Over here, like, milk may last a week and a half, 2 weeks at a max. You know, just plain ordinary cow's milk, not UHT milk or anything like that. So just seeing that really fucking blew her away, just the expiry date on everything. Now, obviously, America's a much bigger nation. I understand that you're feeding a lot more people. You need to put in more preservatives and stuff like that. Just, you know, make it last that much longer. So I get that much, but it's just kind of crazy thinking that milk would have an expiry date of a month. But yeah, that's not the first time it happens. It happens to me like all the time, where I just kind of find myself going down this rabbit hole of random information and facts that will just start with one question in my mind, and I'll just get lost in the internet looking up all this shit, and suddenly I've learned 1,000 facts, and they're buried somewhere in my head, but they're never ready accessible if I'm if I need to talk about them. They're in there somewhere, but, you know, you take on so much information and then you only recall like 2 or 3 facts of the whole lot. Yeah, geez, I find myself doing that an awful lot, and I've always done that. I'm a very curious person by nature. I'm always seeking out information. A lot of people ask me what kind of videos I tend to watch on YouTube myself in my downtime and stuff. Tends to be a lot of educational videos. I love kind of fact videos, like you know, anything space related for one. So, you know, I'll keep up with SpaceX and all the excitement there with building rockets, stuff like that. Anything related to space and the universe, of course, stuff with history, wars, all that kind of stuff. I just, you know, but yeah, my whole life I've always been very curious. Always looking up little factoids when I'm, you know, sitting there having a shit like everyone else. Just whip out the phone and start Googling shit. What else did I want to talk about? Oh yeah, one thing I want to do sometime soon, once I get this podcast and maybe like a gameplay video up on my second channel, and, you know, finish the Irish video, get that uploaded on my main channel, and once I'm back into the swing of things, what I want to do is I want to do a charity live stream for an animal shelter. I was just thinking, you know, with the death of Snoop, I'd actually like to honour her a bit, and because she was a rescue, I'd like to actually, you know, raise some money through a live stream and basically donate that to an animal shelter. I think, you know, it'd be a lovely way to honour her, and, you know, put kind of a positive bookend on what otherwise would have been a kind of miserable start to the year for me. So I plan on doing that sometime soon. Not really sure kind of what game to play or anything, because when you're live streaming, you kind of can't have a game that's so involved that you have to, you know, you kind of find yourself ignoring the chat and not being able to read out donations and stuff like that. But then, you know, you don't want a game that's boring either, like, you know, kind of too casual where not a lot is going on, where people don't get engaged in it. So if you guys have any ideas what kind of game would be, you know, good middle ground where I can still engage in the chat and, you know, piss about in a game, you know, let me know through my socials or whatever what you think would be a good game, or, you know, a couple of games. I'd imagine I'd probably go for a few hours on a live stream, so it'd probably be worth doing a couple of games. I could do like that job simulator thing, but I think there is a way to actually like read the chat through VR and stuff, but again, that's stuff I can figure out down the line. But if you have any suggestions, do let me know. Also, the next game I think I'll be doing on Ducky's Room, my second channel, will be probably Half-Life Alyx, because it's a game, I've played a little bit of it. It's a game I've been mad to play since I got the VR, but I've always kind of thought I'd rather do like a series of it. Oh, oh, do you ever just burp and have vomit? Oh my god. Fuck. Oh, that just burned back my throat. I've been drinking like Coke Zero and I kind of fizzed as I kind of burped, but it brought up stomach acid with it. Oh god. But yeah, it's, I want to do a kind of a playthrough of Half-Life Alyx. It should be fun because it's a very good game. I've seen somebody play through it before. The only thing is I'm apprehensive about it is I am terrible at horror games. I could sit there and binge through the world's scariest horror movies at 3 o'clock in the morning on my own and be completely unfazed. But if you were to make me play a horror game, I'd absolutely shit myself. I don't know what it is. I just kind of get so immersed. It's so much more terrifying for me. And in Half-Life Alyx, there's like a horror section to that with a character called Jeff. That's the one thing I'd be apprehensive about. I'm sure it'd be fucking entertaining for you lot watching me shit myself in the game. It probably wouldn't be so much fun for me, but I still think it's a game worth playing through. In terms of like horrors, it's obviously not going to be the scariest thing in the world in terms of horror games, but probably be worth a laugh. So I'd probably give that a go. I remember like years ago, myself and the boys just went like when I was living with the boys with Hef and PJ, the game Slender came out, and like this was right at the release of the game, and it was like it had taken over the world. And at the time, it was the scariest fucking game ever. And I remember me and the boys were like taking turns playing the game. Every time the controller was been passed to me to play, or well, the mouse and keyboard was been passed to me to play, I was just shitting a brick. I'd be like, no lads, you can play it instead of me. Go on, Hef, give it a go there. Like I don't mind watching you, because I was just fucking terrified to play it, because there's something so different about being in the game because you were the character. It just made me shit myself. I'm just a big baby when it comes to horror games. It's ridiculous. Like anytime I suggest playing a horror game, or you mention a horror game, Connie, the missus, is always like, oh, I need to be with you when you're playing that. I'm like, fuck off. No, I don't need you laughing at me as well. Yeah, I've just realised I've kind of run out of things to talk about. I'm still reeling a little bit from, Snoop and all that, so stuff is not coming to mind to kind of chat about or listen. It's not coming to me as easy as it normally would in a podcast where I can just sit and talk shit for a while. So what I'm going to do now is I did a post a few months back about you guys asking me questions on a podcast, and I didn't really get around to too many of them, so I'm just going to go back to that and going to answer some of the questions, or at least some questions I get quite often on the channel. So so a little bit of a Q&A to kind of finish out this podcast, because I don't want it to be too short either, kind of closer to 40 minutes to an hour, in and around that kind of area. That's kind of where I'd like to keep my solo podcasts. So I'm just going to turn it over to some questions here, and we'll see where this takes us. So a question I actually get asked quite often is if I ever worry about doing a face reveal. For those of you who don't know, I've stated in the past that I'll do a face reveal once the channel hits 222,222 subscribers. And one of the questions I get asked quite often is, do I worry about doing a face reveal? And, kind of the ramifications that kind of come along with that as well, because there is downsides to doing a face reveal. One of which is, if people kind of know your face and you're not like an inanimate object, like I can't even say that word, but you're not a character, you're then a person. It's a lot easier to become angry or offended at some of the things that person, i.e. me, would say, like certain jokes I'd make and all that. So you'd be kind of more vulnerable, or you're kind of more prone to be getting cancelled by cancel culture and stuff like that. And so people often ask me if that's something I worry about, and I suppose I'll kind of break it down into two. One, I'm not overly bothered about doing a face reveal. In a way, it'll be kind of a little bit of a relief, because then I won't have to try as hard to kind of hide who I am, and I don't have to kind of worry about name slip-ups and stuff when I'm recording podcasts, among other things, or accidentally leaving things in videos that shouldn't be in videos. I might give it away. I haven't done it to date. I know a few people have mentioned I mentioned a few different names throughout my podcast, but don't worry, I edit my own podcasts. I know full well what I'm saying. If there's a name being left in the podcast, it's not mine. I said it as a joke, or I was referencing something that was maybe an in-joke with the person I'm talking to. But I'm not worried. In a sense, it'll be a bit of a relief, so I won't have to kind of keep hiding it. And the other side of it is, would I be worried about being kind of vulnerable to cancel culture? I'd say no, because ultimately I don't give a fuck what people think of me. If 10 people call me an arsehole or 1,000 people call me an arsehole, it makes absolutely no fucking difference to me. I know who I am. I know what kind of person I am. If people try to cancel me over a joke, then they've missed the point, and that's not something I worry about. I feel like cancel culture and all that kind of stuff, they only tend to go after people who will apologise or be vulnerable to it, or at least are constantly at it. Like take somebody like Ricky Gervais. I might have mentioned this in the past, but people don't typically go after Ricky Gervais, and if they do, they don't tend to kind of continuously go after them, because Ricky Gervais just tells them to fuck off, and that's pretty much my stance on it as well. If somebody comes to me looking for an apology and I don't think I've done anything wrong, they're just going to be told to fuck off. I don't worry about that. So that's why I don't really worry, you know, and I feel like this year probably, once I kind of get back to the swing of things, I'll probably hit the 222,000 subs, so it's possibly this year you might get an old Ducky face reveal, and I can go ahead and disappoint you all that I'm not actually green or a duck. That's just the persona I choose to be. It's actually I played a little bit of VR chat in the past, and I got my own like Ducky avatar, and you know, it's kind of it looks more like the art that the lovely Skumpkin does for my thumbnails, you know, that kind of character art of Ducky, because I think, you know, that was the easiest to kind of model a character in VR chat. And I've had a few people in VR chat running up accusing me of being a furry, which is quite funny. I suppose the technical term would be a feathery. But one thing that kind of bugs me with it though is when people see like a kind of what's the fucking word, anthropomorphic animal character, they immediately assume it's a fucking fanatic thing or it's a sexual thing or something like that, which kind of bugs me, because like this isn't a fetish. As somebody else actually pointed out to me in the past, I made it into the YouTube furry rewind of 2020, which is fucking hilarious to me because I'm not a furry. Yeah, that was quite funny. It's just, you know, people just see that you're playing a character, and just because it's an animal, they assume you're a furry, which is, you know, just to me, it seems like a massive stretch. Like, I feel like there's a lot more that goes into being a furry than just playing a fucking animal. But anyway, yeah, moving on. What's another question I get often? Somebody asked, who's the funnier person in my relationship, me or Connie? Probably me, you know, not to blow my own horn, but I've always been kind of the kind of person to just always try and make people laugh around me. I've certainly purposely made her laugh more often than not. She's not that she hasn't made me laugh. She's definitely made me laugh so many times, but it's accidental. She makes me laugh. You know, she's very clumsy. She occasionally says some incredibly stupid things. not to shit in her. I don't want to shit in her. Like, she, you know, she's a lovely girl and I do love her, but it's just certain things she comes out with. She just doesn't think it through. I'm probably going to do a video about some of the stupid things she's done over the years, so I don't want to kind of spoil anything from that. But yeah, needless to say, when she makes me laugh, usually she's not actually trying to make me laugh. So yeah, I'll probably take the credit for being the funny one. I suppose in a way I've made a career out of it, so it kind of goes without saying really that I'm the funnier one. Yeah, move on. Another question. A few people ask that is the missus's real name Connie? And the answer to that is no, it's not Connie at all. I just needed a good name to call her, so I gave her the name of Connie Lingus, because it sounds like cunnilingus, and that's hilarious, and that's something she has to live with. And as far as somebody also asked me with the name Ducky, was I ever called Ducky? Was that ever my nickname? I wasn't. No, I was never called Ducky. I was just called by my real name by my mates. Ducky just came because years ago when I had like an Xbox Live account, I had the gamer tag Sergeant Ducky, and the reason I chose that was just because I found the idea of a duck being a sergeant hilarious. Not even an anthropomorphic humanized duck, it was just an actual duck. So I'd actually planned on making my YouTube channel a gaming channel. It was actually my second attempt at a gaming channel, because my first one crashed and fucking burned really badly. It was like really shit, so I was actually going to give it a second attempt. But before I even made a video for the second attempt, I actually changed my mind on what I wanted my videos to be about, and obviously I had a lot more success with that, but because it was called Sergeant Ducky, I went with the duck character, and you know, it's all worked out. So that's why Connie is called Connie, and that's why Ducky is called Ducky. Somebody asked, what's the maddest thing I've ever done for the crack? God, I've done a lot of things for the crack. I just get these like bursts of like mentalness. You're just getting a giddy mood where you just feel like doing something silly just for the sheer sneer of it. Like, I'm always hiding and jumping out and frightening the shit out of the missus where I can, or you know, just calling her fat just to get a reaction out of her. You know, because it's just like one thing you should never do to your missus is call her fat. So when you do, it's just hilarious looking at their reaction. Obviously, I don't mean it. Yeah, I'm always doing things for the crack. Like, I think I mentioned this in the last podcast, but I once dyed my pubes blonde just to see what my missus at the time would react with. I was around the time we were playing Slender, me and PJ, and we got the idea into our head to actually draw out one of the pages of Slender. I think it was Always Watching, No Eyes, I think was the page. And we ran across the road at like 2 o'clock in the morning and stuck it to our mate's window facing inwards, because he was playing the game too, and we were all kind of obsessed with it at the time. And we just left it there and ran away and said nothing. And he came over to us the next day and he's like, lads, you won't fucking believe this. Like, I got up in the morning and there was a fucking Slender page stuck to my window. What the fuck? Just for bands, on occasion. And like, guys, feel free to steal this idea from me, because it's fucking hilarious. What you do is you basically take off your pants. You know, obviously if you're just living with your missus or you're enough privacy that you can do it, but you take off your pants and you get your genitals, all of them, like your cock and bollocks, tuck them between your legs. Now, I think every man has done this at least once for a laugh, but you tuck them between your legs and close your thighs so they stay kind of wedged behind you, and it looks like you have a fanny. And basically, you wait until your missus walks into the room, and you chase her with your genitals tucked between your legs, shouting at her that she should touch your fanny. And if it works anything like my missus, she will immediately get freaked out and run away and tell you to fuck off, because it looks bizarre, but it's fucking funny. But I do a lot of things for the crack. I don't know. I'm well able to amuse myself, and you end up doing some silly things as a result. Somebody else asked, what is the scariest story you have? Which actually makes me think, not my next video. The next video is the Irish video. The following video, I think, is going to be about a scary experience I had before. I won't spoil it because it'll be out in the next month or so. Whenever I get around to releasing, hopefully, in under a month I'll have it done and dusted and out, because I'm unreliable. I keep kind of flip-flopping from one video to the next if on a whim, because sometimes I'll just change my mind on what I want to do. But one of my next videos is going to be about one of my more scary experiences I've had in my life, so you'll get to enjoy that and probably laugh at me as a result. People often ask me as well, have I ever gotten in a fight, a physical altercation? A few times over the years. I've got two brothers, so over the years I've gotten my fair share of scraps with them. When I've been out drinking and stuff like that, things have gotten heated in the past. But there was one time outside of Supermax, I basically fucking sucker punched a guy. But there is a story behind that. So I'm not proud of sucker punching somebody, to be fair. It's kind of a dick move, but it was outside of Supermax one night, and my lighter had been stolen by some girl throughout the night, because why do women keep stealing lighters? For fuck's sake, girls, leave the fella have his lighter. So somebody stole my lighter throughout the night, and I was outside the Supermax, and PJ and Hef had gone inside to get some food, and I never eat when I'm drinking because I always feel like shit. But so I was outside, and I was going, yeah, sure, look, I'll just have a cigarette and I'll wait on the lads. But didn't have a lighter, and I seen a young fella smoking. So I just basically walked over to the young fella. I was like, sorry chap, you haven't got a light on you by chance, do you? And he turned around and he was like, what the fuck are you saying, man? And I was like, whoa, what the fuck? I was like, lad, do you have a lighter? I'm just looking for a light for me fag, me cigarette. And he was like, you fucking want to fight me, do you? And he started going butting heads, shoving his head into me and all that, getting proper fucking up into my face. And I was just like, jeez lad, fucking calm down. I'm just looking for a light. Relax, leave it. Fuck it. It's grand. And sure, that kind of, when you're head to head with somebody, they motion headbutt you, but it's not a collision. They're already touching your head, so they kind of shunt you back with their head, that kind of thing. So he did that to me anyway, knocked me back and turned around and fucking thinking he was a big man. I don't know. He was an absolute fucking scob of a young fella, an absolute fucking arsehole. He must have been on something, or he just thought he was the tough man or whatever. But as soon as he turned his back to me, I gave him a fucking haymaker into the side of the head and knocked him clean out. And everything just kind of got a bit chaotic. His friends had watched on. They didn't know how to react, because I could tell by them. They knew that he fucking started it, but then they're obviously his friends, so I didn't know what to do. So I just bailed. I fucking ran. I just got the fuck out of there. Yeah. So that's probably the last fight. Yeah, that's probably the last fight I got in. As you get older, you tend to get less fights, because you're not as petty. When you get older, you mature a bit, and you kind of tend to let things go, or just avoid particular things, because it's hassle. A lot of people have asked about more stories about my older brother, and I'll probably do stories about him in the future if I just sit there and think about it. But I've kind of, right now I don't have any stories slated for him, but I'll get to them eventually. We'll do one more and then we'll call it quits. Got another one here that's it's kind of related to the face reveal video, but a few people have asked this as well, so I'll answer it. And that is, do I ever get recognized in public through just my voice? The answer is no. I've yet to be recognized in public at all. Whatsoever. Partly a lot of that is because there's a pandemic going on at the moment, and it's only been in the last year my channel has kind of blown up to the point where a lot of people would know about me or be aware of my channel and stuff. But because of the pandemic, I don't spend a lot of time outside or interacting with people, or kind of the odd time I'll just go to the shop, and when I'm at the shop I'll use the self-checkouts. But a lot of it's just got to do with the pandemic. I'm not interacting with a lot of people, so nobody's recognized my voice anyway. But yeah. So the answer is that. I'm going to wrap this podcast up here. I hope you lot enjoyed it. I know it's a bit more lower energy kind of podcast than what I normally do, but given the circumstances, I'm sure you guys understand. As for the next podcast, I'm going to do it with a chap that goes by the name of Garking. Some of you guys might recognize him as the admin on my Discord server at the time. I'm going to be doing the next podcast with him. It was basically going to be talking about the time I had a Discord, and why I shut it down, and the kind of the bullshit that kind of happened along the way that caused me to just get rid of it altogether, because it just became a hassle. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned for the next one. Thanks everybody for listening, and I will catch you lads and ladies in the next one.